Hello and welcome back to another episode of Water Spot Remover Battles. Today we are going to be revisiting the DIY Detail Water Spot Remover. Since the last video, excuse me, a lot of discussion. Thank you for people discussing about the cause and effect and whether or not it is leaving something behind. It appeared to me to be leaving something behind, not just because of the hood, but because the rest of my vehicles became hydrophobic and they have no protection on them. Like the van has no protection anywhere except for the hood and the sliding doors, and the roof was sheeting and beating off, and a lot of things were moving much faster than before this was used, and again, no residue. So and that's what we're going to check today. Instead of looking at the hoods where there is protection, we're going to look at a panel with no protection. So I've polished off a section of one door. I polished the door with a light polish, a bit of an oily polish. So there, you will see that freshly polished paint, even after panel wiping, does have hydrophobics just because it's clean. But you'll see it will change up and down, and there's two sort of chunks to this, and the first one I'm just going to overlay right now. And I've taken notes so I can sort of narrate it on time, but it starts with the panel just being cleaned with rinseless wash. So soaked a rag in it. I didn't make a whole bucket, I just soaked a rag. I'm just doing that one door. So did all that, then polished it with Ultimate Polish, which is again a more entry-level product. It's well lubricated, so it can take a bit to get some of its residue off. I found with the 3D panel wipe spray, which what I used in here, it's gone. It takes off what you need it to take off. But we're just gonna go over it, and this is me sort of sussing things out and roughing it out. So polishing's done. Wipe off polish. Use 3D panel wipe. 6 or so sprays plus a spray into the cloth, just to make sure it's good and thorough. It's kind of a thicker wipe, but that's what was done. After that, spraying it with the hose, cold water. Everything's cold water in these tests, in the shower setting, just to see how it's sheeting. And you can see it's releasing pretty quickly. Again, vertical panel, but you'll see it's releasing quite quick. Then we go over it with DIY Details rinseless wash again, because again, that is panel wipe level cleaning. They say you can use it to be as your polish removal, and it does the panel wiping step. So that, and then we recheck the water. It's still moving a little bit. So then from that point, we do the water spot remover and wipe it in, which is what they've recommended. Since we're re-wetting all the time, I wasn't super concerned about drying anything off. Also, again, only the door area and surrounding is what's been washed. So then we do a water check on that, and the sheeting level, the sort of speed has come back up a bit. So from there is a couple cuts in this, which is something I'm going to touch on in a second. There is a couple cuts because I had to mop the floor. That's the only reason why I stopped recording. Otherwise, again, it's just 10 minutes of this. So there is some cuts, but when it comes to the final test with this stuff, there's no cutting. So you'll see the whole thing. So then after the cut, I just show you the temperature, which is around 21 degrees in the low 40s humidity. That's with the heater running just to keep the temperature nice. Again, in the next test, it's done outside, so no temperature control, but it was about 12 degrees Celsius. So after doing that water check, after DIY Detail, we'll do the 3D panel wipe again, and then do a water check, and it's still sheeting. So from there, we do DIY Details rinseless, then do a water check, still kind of sheeting, then one more 3D panel wipe, and that's when it starts to flatten out. And then we do one more round of rinseless, just to be sure, just trying to get as much to see if we can get it even more and more, to see if we get any change. And it's still quite flat. It is moving. Again, polished paint is better than dirty paint, but it is a vertical panel. So if you see it moving like this fast, on a flat hood, that's not moving, right? Like anything closer to level, it's not going to move very fast. So that was me just sort of sussing things out while I waited for this to arrive. As you can see, we've got 3 bottles of it. I didn't use it straight because straight is recommended for like stripping waxes and sealants, which personally use a polish to strip a wax or a sealant or an old coating. Just chemical stripping is just a waste of chemical and money. Just use a polish. You're gonna have to polish anyways. So I made it in 5:1 and 1:1, and that's sort of its min-max for dilution. They say 1:1 is for like spot checking, and 5:1, anywhere from 3 to 5:1 is for polish removal. So we will explore it in both, but when I put that clip up, I'll narrate it live because I figured out how to get this and its receiver to work with the computer properly. So we'll do that there, but I do want to touch on transparency because that was something that came up in the previous video. I have no ties with any brands. I have no ties with any people. I will tell you up on the screen right now, this is how much I've made up until this point, gross, from YouTube. So I'm not hiding anything when it comes to my process, the amount of money I'm making. Free products is the only thing that anyone could try and leverage over me. And I will throw the product in front of a bus if it sucks. I don't care. I will never do affiliate links. I will never do sponsored videos. So if you don't think I'm being transparent, if you think I'm hiding things because I'm not showing it, that's not true. Flat out, that isn't true. So anyone who thinks that way, watch other videos. You'll see I'm not hiding anything. I understand why other channels use those avenues for revenue. I am not in that position where I need that. And it's not a bad thing. But again, it's a bonus for me in the sense that I don't have that problem. That's a problem for other channels if they're trying to make this their revenue stream. I'm not, and therefore I am not shackled to doing those types of things in order to maintain and continue the channel. So that's a leverage for me that other channels don't get. But again, that's my situation. I get to do this without any strings attached. So so nobody's influencing me. I don't hide anything because I don't care. I genuinely don't care what's good, what's bad. And bad news usually sells. So there's kind of a natural incentive to have a negative thing to say. But I don't want to just be negative for the sake of negative. If I find issues with something, I will highlight it and I will bring it forward. But I won't overinflate a positive or negative. That's not my deal. So so with that out of the way, that was sort of getting this panel prepped. I used this same polishing session to do the video later on when this finally showed up. So there's no repolishing. It's already polished. I just had to rewash it. So I'll go over that in the footage that I'll put now. And then we will see, because there's another thing we need to touch on that was commented about. But we'll do that with the live commentary so I can show you. Anyway, let's get to it. Okay, so here is the 3D soap being rinsed off. Before this was done, the panel was hit with DIY Detail rinseless wash as sort of like a pre-treatment because my power was out and I did not have my pressure washer and foam cannon to use. So I just sprayed 256-to-1 rinseless wash as like a pre-spray, and then I washed the whole car. The 3D soap, the Nano Pail soap, is mixed at 15 mils to just under 5 gallons, so like 4.5 roughly gallons. So a very, very mild mixture, but that's the range. It's half an ounce to an ounce per 5 gallons essentially. So this is the Veritas at 1:1 after the wash and rinse, and you saw the water behavior was quite slow. All the cloths being used to work the products in are actually brand new, unused cloths, so no chemical residue, nothing that could have got into them in a wash cycle or anything like that. They're all brand new. So working this in, it has an interesting smell, but it seems to work quite good, and at 5:1 dilution ratio, it still stripped everything off. So mini review within a review, I actually quite enjoyed the Veritas as a panel wipe. So if you're thinking about getting it or curious if it's good, it seems to be quite decent, and with dilution it's not the worst value in the world. So you see rinsing off the residue. You'll see it's foaming. We'll touch on that a little later, but pay attention to that foaming after different panel wipes are put on. Again, I'm switching up the stream just to agitate, to test that, because that was something that was said, that the foaming is the soap coming off of the panel. So you notice that this is the first one after washing the car. There was some foaming. Now the panel is extremely flat, like the water's barely moving. It's way above the door handle in most spots. It's just curling in from the edge. Now we've got the water spot remover. So we'll shake that up and spray it on. And we'll put a lot on just to make sure we got it even, but I believe I also work it in. No, rinsing. So that's why I used a lot. I'm going to agitate it around with the sharper spray just to work it in and make sure it's covering everywhere. And you'll see that the hydrophobics have come back. And again, this is a polished panel. There's no products on here to come back. But you'll see, we'll get into the flood setting. And going over with flood, it's moving a lot faster than it was previously after the wash and the 1-to-1 Veritas wipe. It's not super fast, but it is much faster. It barely even gotten below the door handle, not even at this point. And you can see that most of the panel is sheeted off now. So we'll go back. This is where I believe I grab a homebrew IPA. So this is 99% IPA mixed 5-to-1 with water, because it's the 99%. And I drenched the panel pretty thoroughly. Just getting the sprayer adjusted because I hadn't used this sprayer yet. So just drenching the whole panel. It's a fresh mixture. Everything was mixed just before doing this wash, so it's all fresh. Nothing is sat or evaporated, so don't have to worry about anything like that. It's all fresh. So yeah, just making sure I get lots of coverage with this, because typically homebrew isn't that strong. And then we'll agitate it again with the spray, and you'll see it's foaming again. So this is one of the things that I wanted to test out and sort of see what was going on. And I had an idea about it before I even tested it, but I wanted to test it just to make sure. But you see I'll switch the stream up here to the shower just to try and rinse everything off, because that other stream does more agitating than rinsing properly. But then we'll put it back to the flood, and you'll see that with just homebrew, things have slowed down a little bit again. It's slower than after the rinseless, but it's not as slow as it was before. So now we're back to 1-to-1 Veritas, which is going to be worked in this time. And this is the same cloth I used last time, but it's fresh. Like, it has Veritas in it. It's not cross-contaminating anything. So this is where I rinse and agitate, and you'll see it's foaming again. Which is an interesting thing. It's been, 3 panel wipes now since we washed the car, and yet it's still foaming. So either 15 mils of that 3D soap is just the strongest surfactants ever in the world, or there's something else going on here with that. And I know what it is, but we'll talk about it later. So we'll rinse that residue off with the shower setting, just trying to get everything out of the cracks and crevices. Because around the door handle, soon a little bit gets stuck. And we'll switch to the flood setting. So this is 2 panel wipes now since applying DIY Details water spot remover. And if I ever stop rinsing it, you'll see it is slowed right down again. Barely moving anything above the handle, just cutting in a little bit. So much slower than after first applying. Now we're going to use 5-to-1. So this is the other dilution for Veritas. And we're going to go again with it, because I wanted to check all the different versions of this and how they behave with the water spray. So this is, this is the 5-to-1. And hit it with the shower setting. Still see the foaming happen. Still a little foaming, not quite as much as the 1-to-1, but still a lot. Again, I don't think there's any soap left after the amount of treatments this has seen, including water spot remover, which in and of itself can have an effect. So We'll do that. We agitate it with this spray because it's just really good at, it's a very strong, sharp spray, but it's just small. But go over that, and I believe we'll switch back to one of the more flood type sprays. Or not. Who knows? I did this yesterday, as they say. Back to 1-to-1. And this one we work in. See if we can just confirm any residues left. I mean, at this point, this is so many panel wipes that you're honestly watching now to see if you're doing any kind of marring before, you know, you're concerned about what's on your paint, concerned what you're taking off, including the paint now. But now we'll do another rinse after wearing it in, and again, it is foaming. So we get a little agitation. And then I believe we switch it to the flood setting to do a final rinse. No shower. Stay consistent with it. But you can see the water behavior is quite slow. Just patches that start to appear, but nothing like after the water spot remover is put on. That's why, the initial video was put out. I was like, there's places in the car where that was not moving at all. And there it is. Okay, so we've gone through this. I gave you the live commentary, and the main highlights here is that after using this, there was an increased speed and water behavior on a fully polished, prepped panel. And by prepped, we're talking like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hits of varying types of panel wipes, be it a home brew, which mine is a 99% IPA mixed 5-to-1 with water, or the 1-to-1 to 5-to-1 of the Veritas. The other thing we're going to point out here is every time you rinse, the panel wipes, they foamed up. No matter how many times in a row I hit it, it foamed up again. That is not soap pulling off the panel. That is panel wipe reacting with water. They do react together. They foam. So I don't believe the statement that the soap I used, which was at its weakest strength, which is 15 milliliters to 5 gallons. It's just under 5 gallons where I fill it, but essentially 5 gallons. It is not leaving behind that much residue. I'm sorry, that's not true. That is the reaction of water and panel wipes. And I showed it with 2 different kinds of panel wipes, varying strengths. They all do it. So, and even did it in the first clip with the 3D wipe. You can see when you're rinsing it, there's a bit of foaming. It is just a byproduct of water mixing with these types of chemicals. That's it. So no, it is not soap being pulled off the panel. It is not soap residue being left on the panel. And you saw that it's minor. Again, like this, it was minor, but there was an increase in hydrophobics. And there's an increase after polishing. Like as you work it and as you wear it down, like yes, it will decrease. But once it went flat, we put this back on, it came back up, and we got it back down to flat again with panel wipe hits. And it didn't take very long for it to get down to flat. And that was without rinseless on this section. The rinseless was used before the wash just because the car had been driven all week. And we actually had a power outage, so I couldn't use my pressure washer. So that's why I used rinseless to treat the panel first and then washed it. But yeah, so it's minor. Like it's a minor thing, but it does seem to have a bit of a restorative property from my experience using it. Again, my whole car, my whole cars had their hydrophobics increase after being washed and decontaminated. They were not doing that after washing them. But again, I don't have footage of it because I wasn't expecting it. Yeah, so the lift up washes off. I can't really test water spot removers here, so I can't really speak on its absolute outright effectiveness of them. Yeah, it's slick. I like the fact that it was slick and it was, it made the paint like easier to dry, it seemed. And if that's the reason why this sort of happens, if it's just like lubricants being left behind or something like that, and they're supposed to rinse off and they consider that as not adding hydrophobics because it's just like a byproduct of, you know, a lubricant or something like that, sure, fine, whatever. But it can make things appear more hydrophobic than they actually are. And after using these products, you get back to where it is, which is flat panels. So, yeah, that's where I think I'm going to leave this one. I'm not going to be beating a dead horse here. Just want to say that looks like we did hit 2,000 subscribers. So that's super great. Thank you everyone who's tuning in and subscribing. And again, if anyone wants to have more discourse on this in the comments or whatever, if you want to reach out to my channel email and yell at me, go ahead. I don't care. Yeah, this is my findings. Again, these are recommendations that people gave me, things that they said I should try because I was getting false information. We did that. It still seems to do what I said in the initial one. Again, on a flat panel, it's less drastic, but it does seem to still do it. But I don't hate the product. I don't genuinely have much of a use for water spot removers. And if I am using one, I'm using it quite sparingly because I typically don't run into those issues here with my climate. So, yeah, if you like this product and you're using it and it works for you, like, who am I to say to tell you to stop using it? But there's a lot of things saying like the hydrophobics came back, and it's like, well, it looks like a little bit of it seems to be added as well, in my opinion. So yeah, that's where I'm going to leave it. Thank you for watching. See you in the next one.